So the flip side to the other question is, hey, what would be a threat to Valve? And so I thought about this a lot when I worked there. Like I was obsessed with this early on because people don't remember. Early Steam, there was a period where it was nothing but submarine games. I'm not kidding. It was like the Kung Fu game and submarine games, and I'm like, this may not last. So what is a threat? And then once you get going, like what do we have to worry about? But so I think it's helpful to think of like let's ignore the games for a minute. We're just going to say the games are going to occasionally come out. It's once every 2 years, by the way, at least a game comes out. I know. You're going to yell at me that it's not true. That this is just a blah 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 blah. I've heard that all my life. I'm done with it. Okay, but once every 2 years, a game comes out. There's only been one stinker, Artifact. I agree with you. It stank. Wouldn't work on it. All right. But so let's ignore the games for a minute. Let's just talk about Steam. Because I think Steam, sometimes people don't understand the rise of Steam and what it's done to separate itself from other stores, right? And then we'll talk about threats that I see. So early years of Steam, there's a guy named Mike Dunkel that nobody knows who helped Steam succeed. So early on, we had this problem of, here's Steam, and hey, I'm going to send an update. Like, remember Half-Life 2 when it first came out? And the problem is, there wasn't a lot of data centers in the same way there is now. And so how did you get all that data out to everybody for their update? Well, Mike Dunkel went to ISPs. He went to other places and said, hey, we're going to send a bunch of data down your way. Wouldn't you want to rather cache it here? And then you can just download it right from there and it'll save you a lot of money. And those ISPs are like, yeah, let's do that. And so he worked out all of these crazy agreements. Like, no one ever talked about that, but like Steam succeeded where like everyone else was just stores downloading bits at the same time, right? There's a whole bunch of weird stuff trying at the time and, yelling that Valve, whatever. And so the thing that separated Steam, though, early on was that ability to deliver quick content. And that happened because he created this system of downloads that worked around the world. Like, he's the one who explained to me, Australia, you had two competing ISPs. They didn't talk to each other on Australia. So if you wanted to send data from this ISP to this ISP, you went to this fantasy land called New Zealand, where they just made up this little fantasy place and said, yeah, we'll exchange data there. And then it came back over. Like, that's crazy. But so he would send it to each of these ISPs, and then they would just download it to their people. Right? And so that made Steam strong. Now, right, there's a whole bunch of other stores coming up, but so why does Steam keep going on? Well, first, it's customer focused. I know you're going to yell at me and say it's not, but go look at Epic Store. So Epic Store, there's no user reviews, like you just don't. There's no comments, there's no forum, like you just don't have the sense there's a community there. But there is on Steam, and developers may hate it, but also it's there. And also Steam early on built a bunch of tools for matchmaking and other things and stats and achievements and like all this back-end stuff that just worked. And so it was really easy for people then to publish and make games, put them up on Steam. And like when they're doing all of that, people are like not even blinking at the 30%, right? And so that's building Steam up. And then, while I don't think early on, Gabe loved WoW, right? And so at one point he says, like, let's make Steam an MMO. And that's what Steam is. It's an MMO. Go look at it, right? Like, you earn things, you have value for being on there. There's all these things that are very MMO-ish. And that makes it sticky. So you can go say, hey, I can go buy this game on some other website, but you're like, I kind of really want to buy it on Steam because I have value here. I'm building things, I'm growing things, right? And so that makes it really hard, right? So all of a sudden it's not like WordPerfect or Lotus 123 that's just one thing and gone. It's got this whole infrastructure around it, right? And they continue that investment with things like the Steam Deck, with Linux support, like all of that stuff just makes it a really formidable foe to go against. And then they spread the love early on. So think about TF2. It drives me nuts. Epic, please listen to me. I've said this a bunch of times to you. So Epic has this problem. They have Fortnite. Fortnite's a super popular game. We'll make a store around it. Everyone will come to the store and then they'll buy other things. No, everyone just goes to Fortnite. So now Epic's gone the other way and said, we're just going to invest in Fortnite. And then there'll be all these things to play inside of Fortnite. And if you want to be a developer, make inside of Fortnite. And then they give away free games to try to bring into the store, but it's not really working yet, right? And Microsoft's got their whole thing with Game Pass. And like I said, it's a solution for 10 years ago, not today. But what was Valve doing? What was TF2 doing? Remember early on, TF2 was like, hey, you got an item from your game? Your little tiny dev releasing a game? Yeah, put it in our game. We'll draw attention to you. So why didn't Epic do that? Why didn't Epic say, hey, if you're launching a game on the Epic Store, we're going to put it in front of all of these players of playing Fortnite and give them incentive to check out your game and think about your game and have some dueling unlocks kind of going on there? No, it's such a missed opportunity, but Valve did. Valve embraced the community of developers, right? And they embraced that idea of here's a bunch of stuff that you can use. Here, we will promote your game. Here, we will promote your game inside of our game and give things up in this weird way. And that is really hard to fight. Now, again, you can be like, oh, well, Valve doesn't make games anymore. Sure, yeah, there's Steam. But Valve does make games, right? They've got stuff coming out, talking about, and like, right, yeah, and again, Artifact. Okay, but with that also, though, is things like the Linux thing. So, man, before, when you would say, hey, our game's going to come out, and you would go post, your wish lists on Steam, first response, well, you're going to make a Linux version of the game? You're going to make a Linux version of the game? No one asks that anymore. You know why? Because it just works. Because the Steam Deck just works. Like, they did that work to do that. And so it just works. Like, it is an amazing thing. Hey, you don't get anybody from Apple complaining that the games don't work on Apple, because, I don't know. All right. So then what are the threats to Valve? What could unseat Valve? What is the thing that's going to take Steam down? I don't know. So a long time, I was really thinking it was Discord. If Discord did something. Then I heard some murmurs, got introduced to the CMO and CEO of Discord, hung out at GDC, and they're like, yeah, we're going to do a store. And I'm like, hey, you should talk to Valve about it. I'm not going to say anything. You do it on your own time. This is when I worked at Valve. And they did, and it, whatever. But it didn't work out for them because, to Discord's credit, because I really like the Discord people, they're also really smart, is they're like, we're this thing. We tried this store thing, but nobody actually goes to the front page of Discord. Have you ever been to the front page of Discord? I don't even know where it is. Probably at discord.gg, but I don't know. Maybe. You would tell me it's not, and I'd believe you, because I've never been there. And they're like, we don't want to destroy all the community for this store. And so then they undid it, right? And they keep trying things. I appreciate that they try things, right? So it's really hard for me to think that something's that thick. Right now, I will say this. Epic Store has started adding some tools for developers that have put it back ahead a little bit from Valve. You can do cross-platform play. We do cross-platform play using EOS. And I know someone's going to come in my forum and go, oh, EOS is the devil. It makes me speak Chinese. Or it's a racist little twerps always, right? But so that's a way. But like short term, there's nothing. You're not going to unseat that store. That store has so many millions of people. I remember the first time we're like, oh my God, there's 100,000 people on the store at once or using Steam at once. And now there's like 32 million yesterday. This is a random day. 32 million. Not all day. At that second of that day, there was 32 million people on the store using Steam. Like hundreds of millions of people, right? And that's really hard to unseat because there's a network effect, right? The idea that there's value in going there because, hey, if I put my game there, then you're going to be able to get trading cards. You're going to be able to trade those trading cards so that you can buy this other thing that gets this thing. That no one understands it. I once was at Ubisoft. I'm going to call them out because they're lovely people there. But I was like, hey, they were talking about trading cards, and I weirdly got called into a business meeting. I'm like, hey, explain trading cards to me. And everyone got this terrified look. I'm like, don't worry, no one understands it. No one. It's okay. Just make them. We did. And people like them, right? Like, I kind of understand them now. But, like, right, like, there's all this, there's, like, Steam is so much more than just Steam. And that is that Gabe and team and everybody there is really smart about looking out and thinking past it and thinking of what can we do. I mean, there's some things I wish they would have done differently. I was there when we were doing the Steam community tab and doing the page for games. And I'm like, we could replace everybody's web page if you just let me remove negative things so that first community page doesn't have like horrible things, because people just go post horrible things. They wouldn't do it. I still remember it down. But maybe that was the right move. I don't know, because again, they're customer focused and that's the way they think about it. So there you go. I think it's really, really unlikely that Valve gets unseated while games still exist in their present form. I am kind of curious. Do other people have other thoughts, other ideas? What would be the thing? What's going to be the thing? Because, I mean, Research on Motion, they thought they were going to go all the time with their little phone. That didn't last. So it's going to come to an end. Everything comes to an end, right? Is it Gabe eating puppies and that freaks people out? He doesn't often. That I know of. that I know of. I know, but like what? Like is it some scandal like that? People won't care. Like I don't